Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
Okay, well, we'll move forward here to other issues, and we've got Mike here, former mayor of Sioux Falls. If you don't know what he's been up to, you haven't been watching TV or anything else, because he's been on Tello frequently, going around the state, and he's got a new book out. And I'll save him from saying it, but if you'd like a signed copy, he brought some along, and they're available at a reduced price of $10. So after the meeting, if you'd like to pick up one and talk to Mike a little bit, you're more than welcome to. Well, with that, I'll turn the microphone over to Mike Huether. I did want to indicate, Mike said he'll talk about anything you want to talk about. But if you're going to ask questions, please make them in the form of a question. If you want a long commentary, we'll schedule you sometime down the road. And if it runs over a minute, I'll probably stand up and try to cut you off, just so we can get the maximum number. And we'd like to start the questions with members of forum, and then we'll open it up. I know we've got Bruce here. He might have a question or two. Save that for the end. Okay.
Thank you very much. And do I need to use this?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're a senior group here.
Well, first of all, it's great to be back. I used to at least speak to the forum at least once a year. And I think it's probably been a year and a half, maybe even 2 years since I've been back. And I do miss this gig, the opportunity to engage not only you good folks, but others as well. However, I am on the road, not only with my television show, but I am still doing public speaking appearances all over the place, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And I had asked the opportunity to speak again. A couple things I was going to chat about. Number one is I do have a television show that's called On the Road with Mike Huether. I'll talk a little bit about that. As was mentioned, I do have my first book out. It's called Serve, Lead, Win. I could talk about that journey. But also, I certainly do want to talk about anything else that is of interest to you. I think that you knew that when I was serving as your mayor, or if I was running for mayor, or even now, there's really nothing I'm not going to talk about. I try to be as open and as transparent and as available and as responsive to folks as I could be. And I'm still trying to do that. Probably the one thing that I would mention is that there certainly is going to be some opportunities where there's one promise I will make, and only one, and that is there are going to be times where we're going to have to agree to disagree. That's the only promise that I'll probably make. So if there is a question or a commentary, just realize we may not agree on something here today. There's a chance on that. But let me just kind of take you a little back. During, I have, and I think I've chatted about this, I have a number of things that I want to do before I pass away. I call them my life's magic list. And I've got 42 things on that magic list. And I'm trying to knock them off as much as I possibly can. And one of the things that I learned is that when I was running for mayor or serving as mayor, that was certainly a lot more difficult to do that. Because I was all in. You saw that. I was all in as your mayor, going as hard as I possibly could in the spirit of serving. But one of the things that I was always enamored by was the show called On the Road with Charles Kuralt. And then I'm also a big fan of Sunday Morning. I don't know if you ever watched Sunday Morning, but Steve Hartman is another person who is on the road trying to find these hidden, positive, inspirational stories about life. But I was always fascinated. I think most everybody in this room remember they would take a dart and they would throw it up against that map of the United States. And then what they would do is they would go to that town. And anybody remember phone books?
Yeah.
Well, They would go to the phone book, and they would go, boom, and he'd put his finger on a name in the phone book. And then he would go to that person, and he found the story about that person. And I think what I always realize is that everybody, every single one of us, we've got a story. We've got a positive story, a motivational story that we could talk about that's in our life. And I always found that fascinating. And so actually, when I was still serving as your mayor, I did approach folks like KELOLAND TV. And I said, KELOLAND, I've got this idea. I want to do something very, very similar. I want to go to small towns all across the area, and I want to try to bring these positive, inspirational stories to TV. And I basically said, and I think we need it. We need it. There is. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we talked about this morning already, it was kind of negative in nature. Sometimes you feel like, is there no hope? But I think that what we find is that there's all kinds of hope out there. There's all kinds of positiveness out there. There's all kinds of inspiration out there. We just got to do a better job bringing it to light. And so that's what I approached KELOLAND about. And to be really honest, the first time I met with him was, hey, Mayor Mike, that's a good idea. But I kind of felt like, don't let the door hit you in the butt as you go out. And but I did meet with those good folks again when I was still serving as your mayor, in brutal openness and transparency. And I said, I'd still like to do this when I'm done serving. What do you think? And I said, it's still a good idea. However, don't let the door hit you in the butt. Well, when I was done serving as your mayor, I went back and I had a great meeting with the good folks at KELOLAND. And I said, I'm going to do this. And I'd love to partner with you. Would you give me an opportunity to at least test it? And I'll never forget it. There were 4 senior level people at Cal that I met with that day. And they said, Mike, yeah, we're going to give you the chance to go do a test. So I went to Marion, I went to Centerville, and I went to Lenox. And I found 3 stories, and we did the filming, and I wrote the stories, and we produced them. And I'll make a long story short, we got them all done. The good folks at KELOLAND, they looked at them. And I walked in and I said, Jay, do we have something here? And he goes, Mike, he goes, yeah, we've got something here. I just don't know what to do with it. And so Cindy and I went on a vacation, and we've not gone on many. We didn't go on many when we were serving as mayor, and we still haven't gone on many vacations, but we did. Went on vacation, said, Mike, let's meet when you get back from vacation, and I did. I met with Jay and Paul and went into the office. And for one of the first times in my life, and you know me by now, I didn't really have the highest of expectations. I didn't. I kind of had controlled my expectations a little bit. But at that point in time, they said, Mike, here's what we want to do. We want to do a television show once a month and to bring these positive stories to light. And we've been doing it now for almost a full year. In fact, we will celebrate our first season. Here's a little plug. Get ready, everybody. Write it down. Tell your friends. Our Best of On the Road is Tuesday at 6:30 Central Time. And what we've done is we've asked our viewers to pick the top 3 stories that they want to see again. And I'm not going to give you the scoop. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give you the scoop. But you'll want to watch it. It's a powerful, powerful show and 3 wonderful stories. But all the stories were wonderful. They were all positive. And yes, I want you to ask me all kinds of questions on it, but the memories are incredible for me. And I love it. The memories are great. These towns are thankful. The people that I'm meeting are just positive and warm and receptive. And then I think what I love the most is that people really, really enjoy our show. There's a show that I can't beat, or that we can't beat. Anybody want to take a guess what that show is?
Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, no, we smoke that. No. We are easily the #1 show during that time slot, but there's one that it's the 6 o'clock news. We can't, but people really are enjoying it, and and I want to talk more about it, and I hope you have some good questions for me. But yeah, I traveled over 6,000 miles in our Subaru, the Outback Subaru that is sponsored by Schulte Subaru. 6,000 miles. I've gone to, as far as Wilmot, Buffalo. Anybody been to Buffalo? Okay, Danny, so been to Buffalo, Hot Springs, Kyle. Anybody been to Kyle? To Elk Point, so I've, in all kinds of small towns in between. And I am proud to announce, at least I'm proud, I hope you're proud too, we're going to do season 2. And so we're going to do season 2, and just actually got back from Davis, South Dakota, yesterday. There's 90 people in Davis, 90. But I've got one of the most positive, inspirational stories you're going to find, and I found it in Davis, South Dakota. And so anyways, that's my TV show. And I'll chat a little bit about, if anybody remembers, and when I was just about done serving as your mayor, it was my very, very last press conference that I had done when I was blessed to be your mayor. And all the media was there, and one of the very, very last questions that was asked of me was, all right, Mayor Mike, so now what are you going to do? And one of the things that I mentioned was I said I would like to write a book or two. And even the people in the room that day, I don't know if they believed it. It's kind of like when you run a marathon. I'm going to run a marathon. People go, yeah, sure. But I have run a marathon. And I told them, I'm going to write a book or two. And I think that one thing, if you know me by now, and we just met, but one thing that you'll find out about me is that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Or we're going to do it. Because normally the things that I do involve a team. And that included not only my television show, but it certainly included, writing my first book. And so I started writing my first book after I was done serving. I started writing in my basement, no windows, very little light. But I started writing that book in July, and I finished my first draft. And that was after about 6 or 7 iterations of the book. I finished my first draft of the publisher on January 2nd. And so I pounded it. I put so much time and effort into writing this book called Serve, Lead, Win. It's just something that I've just, again, I'm thankful for. I'm really, really proud of. And I want you to read it. I want everybody to read it. And in fact, I want everybody to read it. I almost want to give it away. But at the same time, I have found that unless you have some skin in the game, people don't take full advantage of it. And I could give everybody a book, and half of them may go to waste. I don't want that. I know that if you give me $10 on a book that's normally 18, I know you're going to read it. I know you will, or at least you'll give it to somebody so that they read it. But I think it's a powerful book, and it's one that is written with one thing in mind. And it is, government can get things done. It can. And we proved it in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We did. We had 8 years of government getting things done in this Midwest town called Sioux Falls. And people were watching us all across the country when we did it. When we did it. America's next boom town, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You know, one of the top downtowns in all of America. And when I started in 2009, 2010, our downtown was almost closed. It just was so dead, so quiet. So it was a time where there was no confidence. Look at it now. We tackled things that people thought we could never accomplish, whether it be a new event center, a new indoor pool, pension reform. Can you believe it? Pension reform. That saved Sioux Falls taxpayers, you, $300 million over the next 25 years on pension reform. You know what that means? That means getting everybody together. Employees, government leaders, unions, getting them all together to find common ground. In the spirit of doing something that is good for all of us. The employees, the city, the government, the taxpayers, pension reform. We actually tackled it and we got it done, and we're moving forward doing great things and so much more. Now, I know for a fact, in this room, there's people that look at some of the things that we did when I was blessed to serve as your mayor, that you're probably still mad at me for. And I get it. I get it. Leadership is really hard. But it's so unbelievably rewarding. And this book is intended to help people lead, to help people make the most of the days that they are given, regardless of their faith. Make the most, to leave things better than you find them. It'll tell you, it'll motivate you, it'll tell you how we did it, and it'll tell you how you can do it in your small town, in your club, in your organization. It may help you even get elected. Because there's all kinds of behind-the-scenes stuff of what, what I was involved in when I was running for mayor, some of my life when I was in Yankton, and certainly the 8 years that I had the real pleasure and the real honor to serve as mayor. And there's some surprises in here. John, I don't know if you found any surprises, and you don't have to, maybe you haven't even read it yet. But there are some surprises in here. Some stuff that you may have always wondered about. Well, I'll tell you about it in here. In the conclusion, because I know someone's going to ask, I'll wait. But it kind of touches on, all right, Mayor Mike, or my man Mike, or Huey, or whatever. So what are you going to do next? And maybe we'll talk about that too. But I love my life. I do. My grandkids, George and Margaret, Cindy and I just spent 7 days, and yes, 7 nights, babysitting George and Margaret. Their mom and dad came home from a vacation last night at 9:30. Cindy and I slept till 7:30 this morning. And I feel great. But they live 10 minutes away, and so we're really, really blessed by them. I'm healthy, physically, mentally. Cindy's healthy, physically, mentally. We're as busy as we've ever been, and I told this young man, I said, maybe I'm too busy. Maybe I'm too busy. And he said, well, that's a really good thing, Mike. And it is. But I'm still trying to squeeze, I think, too much in to the days. But I'm really enjoying it. I am. And we just announced, or we will announce publicly, we're going to do season 2 of On the Road. I've already got my idea for my second book, and I may start working on that this winter. And yes, there's all those other things. Remember, I said 42 things on the magic list.
Yeah.
I've knocked off a bunch, but I've got more that I'd like to do. One of the things that I've always been taught at the Democratic Forum is that the most fun part of being a speaker at the Democratic Forum are the questions. And so, bring it on. No holds barred Q&A. and I'll do my best to answer the questions. Then I'll come back, I'm gonna go to the guest first. Yes?
I wanted to just tell the group how my family benefited more than most of the people in Sioux Falls from your time as mayor. Because you may remember greeting me as you were running up Spencer Boulevard, so you knew I lived in that neighborhood, and you had the street department trained so that we get our snow cleared before most of the city. And when those branches came tumbling down, what was it, a few weeks ago, and all we had to do was haul our branches out to the street and the curb, and we were the first to that, so you got them trained.
One of the things that is interesting is in the book, and I'm going to say this a couple times because I want you all to read it.
You know me, I love talking to him.
One of the questions that I was asked when I was just about done being the mayor was, all right, Mayor Mike, what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for the new mayor? And I talk about it in here. What do you think it was?
Keeping cold streets.
Streets?
No. The weather. The weather. And it was for me. By far, the weather was the biggest challenge that I had when I had the opportunity to serve. Anybody remember that sanitary sewer line collapse?
Yep.
Right when I was first elected? That was caused by excess water going through because of that rain. Anybody remember the ice storm? Anybody remember that? Anybody remember we had 3 floods when I served as your mayor. We had 100-year rain events. We had 300-year rain events, and we even had a 1,000-year rain event when I served as your mayor. And look at Mayor Tennington. I think his greatest challenge as mayor so far has been the weather. So, yeah, thank you. Yes?
I thought I was next.
Regrets.
Yes.
Now you're acting like
Any
a
regrets? And I have a specific one. Any regrets about the choice to put the convention center out there instead of downtown?
Any regrets in terms of having the event center at the convention center downtown? I never use this word, but I'm going to use it today. Absolutely not. When it comes to that location. Absolutely not. It was the absolute right location for our event center for a variety of different reasons. And I'll go through it, and I touch on it in the book. Let me just give you a couple. One is this. It wouldn't have passed. It wouldn't have passed. I knew. Anybody remember Councilor Kermit Staggers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilor Kermit Staggers and I were the two we did a boots on the ground campaign when we were running for mayor. So we knew what the people truly wanted. And when I was going around door to door, business to business, I had a really good flavor for what the top issue was or top opportunity was when I was running for mayor. And that was, surprisingly, because remember 2009? Dire economy, the roads were really bad, there was no confidence, but the number one topic was the event center. And it was young or old, rich or poor, black or white, Republican, Democrat, Independent, it didn't matter. It was the number one topic. Well, one of the things that I knew, and I knew who would vote when it came to, not only running for mayor, but who would vote for something like a new event center. The folks that were 60 years old and older, they wanted to use common sense, business sense, and it wanted to feel right to them. And they were not going to vote for an event center downtown. No way. No way. Just even in their mind, getting in and out of downtown, the parking, where are we going to put it? All that. But even beyond that, just the business sense, the common sense, we already had the infrastructure out there. We had the interstates, we had the 4-lane roads, you had parking, you had the connectivity with the convention center and the arena. Because flat floor space is critical when it comes to bringing conventions, doing big concerts, doing big shows. And so we had contiguous flat floor space with the arena, convention center, our new event center. That's all one big phenomenal complex. And it's running. As well as The thing's been open, what, 5 years? 5 years. Named one of the best event centers in the country. If you were going to build it downtown, it still wouldn't be built. We've had 5 years of one of the most successful event centers in the country. And if you would have attempted to put it downtown, where were you going to put it? Well, you could say, how about the rail yard redevelopment project, which is in the book? Well, we spent an enormous amount of time and effort on that. In fact, we started in 2005, and ultimately we were able to get it done, which may have provided some land for a new event center downtown, may have, but we just got that finalized right when I was done serving as your mayor. That was 2018. So the odds are, even if we would have started, it may have just, even if it would have passed, if it would have maybe just opened its doors maybe 6 months from now. Okay? And it touches on that. Again, I don't want to denigrate the efforts that were put into trying to put it downtown. In fact, I promote it in the book. I talk about it. Steve Hildebrand, for example, his strategy. And I got it. It's just that it's one of those things where there are times you have to agree to disagree on topics. And there were many times when I served as your mayor where we had 4 votes in the council. And I had to break that tie. And in fact, we even had some where I vetoed something and I needed 3 votes to maintain that veto, okay? And still move things forward. And that's a 3-5 and we still move forward. And amongst some of you in here, you may go, that just doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem right, Mike. But remember, government can get things done. It can be a messy process. It may not be completely popular, but it can. And one of the things that you're going to learn too is that 50% plus 1, 50% plus 1, you can move forward. You can. There's some who believe you shouldn't move forward unless everybody's on board. And there's communities, there's organizations, there's all kinds of groups that never move because they want everybody singing together before they move forward. And in my 8 years, there were times where we all sang together the same hymnal, and there were times where 50% disagreed with me, but 50-50 plus 1, and we move forward. Yes?
Mitchell has a corn palace. No, that's fine. No. Mitchell has a corn palace. Wall has a drugstore. Rapid City has snakes and dinosaurs. Sioux Falls has the falls, but do you think it's possible that another point of interest for tourists stopping off from 29 and 90 could be probably the world's most expensive parking ramp per parking space? Do you think that's possible?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna respectfully disagree in terms of the direction you took that. I'm gonna respectfully disagree. Because I think that if Sioux Falls just wanted to build a parking ramp like we had done for generations, we could have done that. In fact, what we could have done was build a parking ramp downtown cheaply without the ability to expand it or to grow upon it, in the spirit of keeping the cost of that parking ramp down, to keep the cost per parking space down. We could have done that again, because we've done it before. However, in the spirit of doing, I think, what is right for the community as a whole, why not think a little grander, a little bolder, a little more forward thinking, in the spirit of not only creating parking now, but also for generations to come. And so the parking ramp project, we spent years doing due diligence on that, working with consultants to figure out how much parking we're going to need not only now, but for years to come, the right location, as well as how to do it. One of the things that's important to remember is that the parking ramp, the way that it was just mentioned here, is that, yeah, if you look at it just as a parking ramp, it's going to be an expensive parking ramp. But that's not what it was intended for. It's intended to be one of the biggest, grandest buildings in all of Sioux Falls. And so in order to do that, the foundation, the thing that's so important, has to be strong. And until the remaining floors are put on that parking ramp, the value in maybe your mind and some is not going to be as great as it should be. When I left as mayor, we had done so much due diligence on that project, and I really, really believed in it strongly. And then when Mayor Tenhaken was elected, he and his team did their own due diligence on that project and stood proudly in representing the city, saying, yeah, we think this is a really good deal for our town. What happened after that, I do not know. I do not know. However, I do know that the foundation is strong.
But we do know.
No, we don't. And I think you'll...
Well, the people who are gonna put the rest of the building on that strong foundation.
And again, we'll move on to the next questions, but thank you, yes.
First of all, I'm still mad at you that you didn't, I'm still mad at you that you didn't, with the event center, that you didn't, deciding was not an open question, and I think that should have been, deciding on it was left as it was, and we never heard why it wasn't taken off and redone so that it's not crinkly. But my question to you is, what about the old rumor that you were running for governor?
No, I think it's fine. Well, I was waiting for that question. And that's in the conclusion of the book as well. But let me touch on the event center just a little bit. The event center, again, I think it's beautiful inside and it's beautiful on the outside. And it is serving our city in ways that we could have never imagined. In terms of taking the siding off and putting on new siding, it made no business sense, it made no practical sense, because we don't need to. It is functional, it's still beautiful, the building is protected, it'll serve us for years, and so there was no need for it. In terms of your last question, in terms of the rumors that I'm running for governor, those rumors have been going on since I was in the 6th grade. And it's in the book.
I knew it.
It's in the book. I mean, and sincerely, I talk about it in the book. Yes, I have always been intrigued by serving this great state of South Dakota, and I still am today. I think about it every day, multiple times a day. And I have folks like you who ask me about it multiple times as well. And I definitely want to serve again.
Okay.
But it is hard. One of the hardest things is that you could be the most qualified, the most passionate, the most dedicated person to serve, whether it be state senate, city council, mayor, governor, president, whatever it would be. However, you don't get to serve unless you win. That's John. You don't get to serve unless you win. That's Denny. You don't get to serve unless you win. And running for public office is really, really challenging. And it's even more challenging now. I mean, people come after you. They will attack you in ways that you cannot imagine. And it's hurtful. It really is. You can try to be the most positive, uplifting, motivating, inspirational, passionate person in the world, but there are people out there who will attack you in ways that you can't believe, in ways you can't imagine. They will make things up in terms of trying to think of things that they think it is versus what is truly factual. And now it's even harder. Social media, it's really, really frightening on how it can impact not only you, but these people that love you or care for you or support you. And so, yes, I am intrigued by the opportunity, but right now, I'm tackling other things in life that I'm really, really enjoying. But you'll have to stay tuned. Thank you. Yes?
Yes, this is in regards to your current life. You're driving around.
Yes.
I take you back there, going to these different towns. How do you find your stories?
Thank you.
Like, there's all these people. How do you go in there and pick one story?
And your name, please?
Kathleen?
Kathleen. That's a great question, and that is asked wherever I go, and I love that question. Here's what I do, and I'll try to be brief. Number one, there's 3 ways I get the stories. Number one is I have traveled all over this area, and so I've found stories on my own, such as the only one in Lenox, South Dakota. I found that story after a golf game one day. Okay. The second way is I can go into any town, pick a town, Crestbard. I can go into Crestbard, and it takes me about 3 hours to find the story that I want to do. And you know what I do. I go to the Senex station. I go to the local cafe. I'll stop in a bar or two. I'll go to the city hall. I'll go to the local newspaper. You know me. I love talking to anybody. I just start talking to people, and I will find the story that I want to do in about 3 hours. And for example, I did that at Marion, at Marion Machine. I stopped off at a grocery store right as you come into town, and there were a bunch of farmers and ranchers and people from there. And I walked in and just surprised them, and I said, "Man, I'm going to look for a story, and I'm not leaving until I find it." And then the third way, and I'll bet you can guess this one already. The third way is the show has really been popular, and it's really something that people love to watch. And so you know what they do? They'll send us ideas. Mike, you gotta meet so-and-so in Emory, or so-and-so in Wilmot, or this event that we put on in Escalade. You gotta check it out. You gotta check it out. And I do. And in fact, I just got a good idea about a potential story in Crestbard. So those are the 3 ways that I do it. But it's really hard because there's easily 5-10 stories in every town, and I gotta pick one. But here's my rule, and I know it's probably gonna make some people mad. I only do small towns. Only small towns. And they're just very thankful because we're paying attention to somebody outside of maybe Sioux Falls. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
To piggyback on, we heard from the editor and his daughter from the South Dakota magazine.
Yes.
To me, they're doing similar.
Yes.
And then so interfacing with them. The other thought and promoting what you were doing in their magazine might make a little sense. Just saying. And is your show on demand, or if you miss them, you can go back and see?
Thank you. Well, first of all, thanks for your interest in the program. It is South Dakota Magazine, which does a great job. They find hidden stories too. South Dakota Public TV, they do kind of these stories too. But what we do is, we'll spend, about a week and a half, Taylor Yoakum and I from Cal, and I don't work for Cal, I partner with Cal, so I'm not a Cal employee. I want to make sure you understand that. But we'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks to put together a half-hour television show. And so we kind of do our own thing. South Dakota Magazine does their own thing, and it's been good. Your second question was
On demand.
I meant, yes. If you ever miss a show, we do rerun them on UTV, but also just go to kelland.com, and they're all there, all 27 stories, or just Google On the Road with Mike Huether, and it'll give you all the stories, or yes, you can go to mikehuether.com, and they're all there too. Yeah, mikehuether.com. So good, thank you.
You think South Dakota needs an income tax?
Well,
Come on.
here's the deal,
What was
is
the
that,
question?
does South Dakota need an income tax?
Yes,
Okay?
yes, and yes. They do, they don't want it.
No, it's not gonna happen.
You need it for
It's not gonna happen. And I think more importantly is that, rather than addressing it as an income tax particular, here's the challenge. You've got income and you've got expenses. Revenues and expenses. That's it. South Dakota needs to find a way to increase the revenue stream, at the same time get the biggest bang for the buck out of the expense side. They really do. And I'm going to say something, and I'm going to make some folks mad in this room, but get ready. You're used to it by now. Get ready. I strongly believe that government should be run like a business.
No.
I strongly believe it. Because, and that's what we did in my 8 years when I was serving as your mayor. We started to run it like a business. And I think that we should do the same thing in government. Look for the opportunities. Look at the issues. Get a bigger bang for our taxpayer dollar. Remember who we're serving. It's the citizens. It's the citizens. So let's find out what are their top priorities and then make sure that we put our resources towards that and squeeze as much out of that taxpayer dollar as you can. I do believe that there is more money for education funding within the budget that we already have. There is.
The current
You
governor.
just find a way to reallocate those dollars that are being spent. Same thing that we're doing in city government.
You're not doing
Same
it.
thing that you do in the Democratic Forum. You've got revenues that come into the Democratic Forum, and you've got ways that you want to spend that money. The ways to spend it are unlimited. But if you want to have a balanced budget in the Democratic Forum, in the city of Sioux Falls, in the state of South Dakota, and yes, I don't know if it'll happen in the United States of America anymore, but you find that balance. And that's why I strongly believe that you should run government like a business. And so, anyway, I just made some people mad.
No.
All right. Yes, anything else? And I thank you, these have been great.
You didn't answer
Yeah.
the question on income tax.
Well, I did. I did in a way that I said, you've got to, whether it be any tax, there's revenue streams that come in and there's expenses going out, okay? But there will not be, I don't think there will be an income tax in the state of South Dakota. Not in my lifetime.
Okay, part of the same question might be, what about the future of the way the state is gerrymandered?
Well, we talk about Germany, that take, you know, a forum on itself. Yeah. Next.
You know, I just something
What-
that popped into my head
Yes.
was, has South Dakota ever thought about trying to build something like a botanic gardens? You know, a place like that, a botanical garden? You know, because most states have something like that, and we have such wonderful place to grow.
I have no idea. Yeah,
Anybody
sorry.
know if
But
anything like
one question I have, you don't have to worry about that, I think my voice carries. You're gonna run a government like a business. That reminds me of the swimming pool. We had your lawyer here, the city lawyer, and I asked the question, are we going to get anything legal from the VA saying that that indoor swimming pool will be our property? He said, before any ground is turned, we will have a letter, a memorandum on the pool. That letter never took place. Technically, legally, we spent over $10 million on a pool that is owned by the VA. And we have a president that says he wants to privatize the VA. If some private company moved into the VA, could we be assured that that public money that was spent like a business would actually be our swimming pool?
Well, that wasn't a question.
No, that was a question.
And I'll try to be brief. I have no idea what that is all about. The property is owned by the city. It's your pool. It's actually a chapter in the book. I encourage you to buy it. And no, you've got nothing to fear in terms of the pool going to the VA. The nice thing is that, again, we found great common ground in terms of working with the VA. One of the things that was of concern, if you remember, was that, oh my, all the parking is going to be taken away from the veterans and their families and their friends if we build a pool next door. That's not happened in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, now folks that visit these veterans that have served us in such an admirable way, they can go take their families there, grandmas, grandpas, kids, grandkids, and it's a symbiotic thing. And if any veteran wants to go use a therapy pool at the aquatic center, they can do that. So again, there are all these things that I think that we could focus on that are negative and controversial and things like that. And in reality, what you do is you do try to serve in the best way that you can. If you're truly a public servant versus a politician, which is another chapter in the book. But no, I'm so proud of the Midco Aquatic Center. Again, there's so much that's gone on, even as we were looking to build. Remember, folks, we started talking about building an indoor pool for Sioux Falls, South Dakota, back in 1962.
That's a long day.
1962. And yet we still have folks that just want to take that and go, oh, let's focus on this negative thing. No. Focus on what we can do versus all the reasons we shouldn't do something. One of the great things that I'm finding when I'm on the road is that there are communities in South Dakota that are struggling in ways you can't imagine. But they are staying positive. They're trying to find ways, yes, to find money to invest to make their quality of life in that community better. And I found that just powerful. Versus so often what happens, and yes, has often happened in South Dakota, we find ways to say no. Let's maintain the status quo. We don't like change. We can't afford any taxes or investments or whatever. We can. We can. If we work together, find common ground, communicate, and ultimately get things done. Okay. Is that good? Thank you.
Mike will be around if you want to talk to him. And I don't know, that seemed like an awful lot of chapters in such a small book.
It's an easy read.
Easy read.
Yeah.
I did notice, Mike was talking about his Banshee list, and some people refer to that as the bucket list.
Yes.
And I think the phrase knock it off probably isn't the right phrase to use when you're talking about your bucket list.